Hey, a new hat. Got this. Hi, I'm Catherine.
And I'm Jacob.
And welcome to Wedding Possible. So this is part 2 of our budget series. So thank you for sticking with us. If this is your first time joining us, hi.
Oh, hello.
Hi. So last video, we talked about how you break down your budget with your partner so that you understand how much you can commit to saving every month leading up to your wedding. In this part, we're going to talk about having that conversation with friends and family for those who might want to contribute. And then from there, breaking down the budget into whatever your budget number that you came up with is. How do you go about asking friends and family about how much they can contribute? The first part is having your budget number without friends and family in mind. So I think this is important, and I don't think it's ever a good thing to feel like you're relying on family or friends for any money for the wedding. For me, I'm kind of someone who likes to control a lot of details, and so if someone was to pull out last minute and not commit to an amount that they said, I just don't want that stress. So at least for us, we figured out what would be a good round number to decide, if no one else wanted to contribute, at least we could do this together. So once you have this round number in mind, and as an example again, ours is $15,000. Once you have this round number in mind, then you can go asking friends and family if they wanted to contribute to a part of your wedding. So I wouldn't just go straight up, go ask, hey, can you give me money? I would be more strategic about it. In terms of strategic, first question that you want to ask, is there anyone in my family who is good at a skill set or some sort of function that I could use instead of asking for monetary value? So instead of asking your friends or family specifically for money, you can ask them if they would like to gift something to you in terms of a service or some sort of skill set that they may have that could contribute. So for example, we were going down the list of categories, and one thing that I know that I didn't want to have to pay for was an officiant. So you can go and pay a professional officiant a fee, and then they'll come and officiate your wedding. But in our case, we had a discussion and we wanted to find someone who knew both of us well, but also would be part of our big day. And so we talked and we got together and made the decision to ask my uncle. And so my uncle is going to be our officiant. And so to us, it's very personal, and we're really excited to have him because he's good at public speaking. And so I think he's going to love taking on that task. So he gets to be involved, and it's not costing him anything really but his time. And then he's going to have to get the license for officiating online, I assume. Do you have an aunt who is good at baking? Maybe they could bake your cake. Do you have a friend who does hair and makeup? Maybe they could do your hair and makeup or gift it to you, or you can give them a gift in exchange for their time. I think there's a balance there still where you shouldn't expect them to do stuff for you even though they have that skill set, because when it comes down to it, if they're family especially, you want them to be present and you want them to be there with you and enjoying your date together. If you have them working your event, it doesn't really feel fun for either one of you because you're stressed out. The other person's stressed out having to fulfill whatever they needed to fulfill, and they don't really get to enjoy the day. And so on a personal note, I think it's not fair to them. I think they should not have to work. This is the time for the families to come together. And so I feel like family members should get to know both sides of our families that are coming together. And I think that's important to me, at least.
Essentially, what it comes down to is just take it on back a few 60, 70, 80, 90 years when you used to barter for things. And I can do something that you can't, and you can do something that I can't. So let's just do some sort of bartering and trading here. But in reality, I think it's a good way to have your family members involved in the wedding who might not be a part of the bridal party or the groom party, or who are not going to be immediately in the planning stages of the wedding, but they can support you in other ways.
So what do you do if you don't feel comfortable asking friends and family? I mean, you don't have to, whether they want to help financially or with their time or gifting a service, you can always just search for other vendors. And in this time, I think it's nice to support vendors who might be struggling, who normally get a lot of business in the events industry. But in this case, I think if you have any friends or even acquaintances, I think are a good place to start in terms of looking for vendors, because they're kind of maybe in your circle, but you'd still be paying them for their time. And so that's good. I think it's nice being able to find someone that you know and that you can support. If not, there's the internet, and you can always find people on the internet. We'll get into a discussion more about vendors in another video, but I think when you have your budget number set, then you really can start looking for people in that budget range. So I'm going to go into a breakdown of all the categories that you'll cover on a broad scale for a $15,000 budget. And so now we're going to go into a budget breakdown of $15,000. So if your budget is more or less, obviously you'll have to change the numbers, but this is just an example. You're going to have each of the categories and the percentage allotted to each, as well as the dollar amount that you would spend per category. So we'll go into that right now. Welcome to part 2 of my budget video. And today we're going to go over breaking down a $15,000 budget. So I put together this budget calculator, and it's very broad. So if you have more detail in mind, then we would have to adjust for that. But in this case, we're just going to break it down by big categories. So as you can see, I'm breaking it down in terms of the typical coordinator, venue, dress and alterations, hair and makeup, groom attire, catering, bar and beverages, cake and or dessert table, rentals and decor, flowers, photographer, entertainment, stationery, officiant, transportation, favors and gifts, wedding accommodations such as a hotel, miscellaneous, and if you have any other expenses outside of the budget. So based on a $15,000 budget, these are the following percentages that you should allot to each category. So in the order that I just announced, a coordinator should go for 5% of your total budget. So if you do the math, it's $750 for a $15,000 budget. The venue should be 15% of your budget. In this case, it's $2,250. Dress and alterations, 5% of the budget, $750 for your dress and alterations. But you also have to think of things like your shoes, accessories, any shapewear, etc. Hair and makeup should account for 2% of your budget, and that's about $300. So if you have someone who can help you with this, if you have a friend that is really good at hair and makeup, you could consider asking them for help with that. Next, the groom attire should account for 2% of your total budget, so about $300. I'm gonna leave the groom to this one on his own accord. I think he'd enjoy it more himself anyways, but it's cool. The next one is catering. This is going to be probably the most expensive part of the wedding outside of the venue itself, especially because a lot of these venues require a preferred vendor, such as a caterer who they might have worked with or they want to work closely with. And so in this case, 20% of the $15,000 budget is $3,000. Next, bar and beverages. So you got your alcohol. I'd say 7% is an okay allotment for that. So that's a little over $1,000. $1,050 is the number. Fortunately, the venue that we chose has a bring your own alcohol policy. So I think we could get under that budget, and I'm excited to try. Challenge accepted. For cake and dessert table, this should be about 1% of your budget. That's a small number for the average that I see for a wedding cake. So there's a lot of creative ways that you can do this. And we're going to go into detail in other videos once we get closer to that process. But you can see in my notes that I have alternative motives in terms of trying not to have to go to a traditional bakery just because I know how expensive it can get. Next, we're going to go to rentals and decor. This should be about 5% of your budget, which is $750. In this case, our venue came with a bunch of rentals, and because of the venue being outdoors, we're not going to have as much decoration as you might have for an indoor venue. So when you're looking at venues, and we'll do another video on this as well, you have to take these types of factors into consideration. The next category is flowers, and that should be 5% of your budget, so $750. Flowers I know are expensive. The next category is photographer, and this should be about 10% of your budget. So doing the math, it's $1,500.
I would say that it's really difficult to find a wedding photographer that's going to do a full 8 hours for this price, especially in Southern California. If your budget is a little bit smaller, there are some alternative options that you could do, but depending on the quality of the work that you want, I would recommend spending a little bit more for a professional photographer. All right, the next category is entertainment. So this should be 10% of your budget, another $1,500 here. Fortunately for us, if you rope your DJ into your entertainment budget, ours was included in our venue site fee, which is really, really interesting. Yay! I don't have to look for someone. On the other hand, maybe you want to have a live band or some other form of entertainment like dancers. This is where you would put that in that category. The next category is stationery. So this should be 2% of your budget, approximately $300. There's a lot of online companies for this, and I feel like with stationery, you also have to consider if you want a calligrapher, then you have to add that into your budget. So that's a whole nother layer, but $300 I don't think would get you that far with just the printed stationery. So this will definitely be affected by your guest count. So take that into consideration, and when you're looking for stationery, usually it's in packs of round numbers, so you'd be paying like 20, 30, 40, 50 instead of like 37. We'll get to that on a later video. Next is the officiant. So I started to mention this earlier, but I think this is an important point. So you can pay for a professional officiant, and that should be about 1% of your budget, $150, give or take. But I think this is an important role for someone if you want to save some money, to ask a family member or a close friend, someone who might know you both. Next is transportation. This should be 2% of your budget, $300 of the $15,000. This would cover your transportation to and from the venue. It would also include your getaway for your grand exit. So if you want something that's more top of the line, that's going to cost a little more than $300, I'd assume. But I guess that's where creativity comes in, and if you have any friends or family that could own a car that you'd want to drive away. The next one, favors and gifts, 2%, another $300. So from what I've heard, a lot of people are skipping the favors if they want to cut corners. So with a lower budget like this, I think that's a good idea. For us, my grandma offered to make biscottis, which goes along with our theme. If not, I don't see ourselves doing favors at all. So if that falls through, that's my backup plan, and that's okay. I won't be hurt. I feel like the weddings that we've gone to, most people have forgotten favors or they just leave them there. So in this, it's not going to be something that I'm going to waste money on if I don't need to. The next category are wedding accommodations. So this could be a hotel, and we can go into a video about hotel blocks in the future. But whatever accommodations you'll be staying at during your time, whether that be the night before for like the rehearsal dinner, and the day of the wedding, and the night after, whatever you want to do and see fit. But in this case, $300 is probably not going to get super far, especially if it's just one night in Southern California. Maybe 2 would be $300 if you can find a good deal. I don't know. And lastly, from what I've been told, it's great to have a miscellaneous category of at least 5%, which is $750 for a $15,000 budget. And this is important because there will be things that come up that you don't expect. And this could be like fees, like service fees or gratuities, things that might come up that you're not expecting. And so you want to have some extra money in mind to pay for those things. So that covers the main categories. And so there are other expenses outside of your budget that you want to consider. You could either rope them into your budget or you can keep them separate. The things that I put into the calculator for $15,000 have to do with more of the bride and the groom paying, or if you have like your family members paying for specific details, like my dad's going to pay for my dress, for instance. So I'm going to keep that up here. But for other expenses outside of your budget, such as a rehearsal dinner, normally etiquette-wise, the groom's family pays for that. So I'm not going to keep track of the number or the dollar amount for that. Bridal shower, same thing, etiquette-wise, someone else throws the bridal shower for you. So as the bride, I am not going to worry about that either. If you want to factor in your engagement ring to your total budget, you could, but I'm not going to add that into our $15,000. The wedding band and the groom's ring, that is another thing that you could add into your budget, but I think I'm going to keep that separate. just because we're not going to be paying for that at the same time as all the other things. And lastly, the honeymoon. This one I'm kind of on the fence about because I think with COVID and everything going on, we're not sure when we're going to be able to take our honeymoon. So I think having an idea of how much you want to spend for your honeymoon is important. But in terms of how much you should budget that, I think you got a little bit more wiggle room, especially if it's something you might not do right after you get married. So then you might have some time to save up some more money for your honeymoon. So you can see where weddings can add up really, really quickly. So $15,000 won't really get you that far, but for us, it's the challenge and we love the challenge. So with that, I hope you enjoyed my thorough discussion of my budget calculator for $15,000. If you have any questions, let me know. And now we're going back to the video.
Well, that was a ride.
That was a lot of information. So thanks for sticking with us. But you know, it really is important to understand how budget affects everything that you decide to do. And how much money you have really depends on what you can buy, and the quality, I think, usually comes into play. So if you're working with a budget that's bigger, you're probably gonna have more wiggle room to get more things that you want. But if you have a smaller budget, you'll have to compromise in some areas, which is okay, but it just means you have to be a little bit more creative, which I think is kind of fun. So at least for us, that's where we're at. Hopefully this helped.
Hey, it's helping me because I don't like talking or asking people for money or anything really. But I guess having Catherine as someone else, the part of this duo, this duet of love, is nice because it's, you know, she's comfortable with it, and if you're not comfortable but your significant other is, your fiance is, definitely leverage them on their ability to do so. Me feeling uncomfortable, I've had to take a step back from her doing that just because I just don't, it's not that I don't feel like anyone can offer anything, I just don't feel comfortable asking for any of the help, monetary or for skills otherwise. And ultimately, it's going to be coming down to the fact that people are going to be happy to gift you things because there's a reason why you're inviting them to your wedding. There's a reason why they're a part of your life. They either saw you grow up, or it's someone new that you made a friend with, or maybe started a new family with. They're there to help you, and you're there to help them. So it's okay to I don't want to say take things, accept what they're offering,
and be grateful for it. Thank you for joining us for the second part of the budget series. I hope you learned something today.
Stay tuned for our next video, and the best way to do that is you can follow us on Instagram, you can like and subscribe to this video, or you can just be our good friend and text us when the video is going to come out. We'll let you know. And like always, is it possible? Wedding possible.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, I'm Catherine.
And I'm wide-eyed Jacob.
No, you're squinty-eyed Jacob. Ow, my eyes. Hi, I'm Catherine.
And I'm Jacob.
Why can't you just be normal?
So you get, it's the whole package.
For the rest of my life. Are you okay?
No, my eyes are burning really bad. Like my allergies just hit hard.
I don't know, maybe it's the spray from the kitchen.
No, it's being out.
Did you move it in here?
It's over there, but it's not that. It started.
Sure?
It started when I came into
So
the.
now my eye's bugging me now.
Oh, it's because I.
Okay. So
Bet
then,
you wish you thought about that, didn't you?
oh my god. I don't wish I thought about that, okay? I don't want that.
I just felt really hot.
That's alright. It's because you're staring at the light. That's probably it. Are you blinking?
I forgot how to blink. Whatever, just go
You
ahead.
said rolling back 60, 70, 80, 90 years. I remember.
Keep it 100. All right, go.
I'm the chillest bride.
Far from it, but yeah.
Yeah.
You're just making up for all the other times you're not chill. It's true though. You're a bride till every other day of the year.
You're spoiled. Well, hang on. Save it for the camera, buddy. Can you not throw your ring around, please? The price of gold is going up. Okay.
Movie magic.